Normally we would want the key to be on this side, far side keying her and putting the triangle on this side. But friends, you can't do that because there's a wall in the way. Today we're talking about how to light a scene when your character's backs are literally up against the wall. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Nate Caywood. I'm a Los Angeles-based cinematographer, and I started this YouTube channel with the intention of reverse engineering and breaking down the work of incredibly talented cinematographers in the hopes that I can also get better at the craft of cinematography. And I'm putting it on YouTube in the hopes that you guys might be able to learn something as well. So last week I was working on a shoot where we had two characters that were sitting by a fire on top of a skyscraper. We were on top of a skyscraper. There is like a gas fire pit, and they were sitting around the fire pit. And we had done the location scout. We had everything set up. We were going to do moonlight. There was going to be backlighting them. And once we got the frame up and everybody was set and we were ready to go, the director felt like it was too sleek, it was too clean. The characters needed to feel more isolated. So we decided to move the characters away from the fire pit and put them up against a glass wall, which was butting up against the edge of the skyscraper. We were running a pretty small crew, so we didn't have a lot of grip support, and we didn't have the safety stuff rigged up to be able to do this. So we couldn't put any fixtures behind them because it would be hanging off the side of the skyscraper. And we were 18 stories up, so there was no way we could get anything high enough. So we had to kind of make it up as we went along. And it was really interesting because I felt like I learned a lot in this shoot. And so when I got back from the shoot, when we were kind of just like winging it to see how we could get some good images, I wanted to see like, how are other people doing this? When your characters are up against the wall and you cannot light from behind them, how do other cinematographers achieve great looks while having to do that? Because it does happen. So first I wanted to talk about how normally you would probably do a setup like this, right? A setup where two characters are sitting right next to each other, they're talking to each other. This is very reminiscent of two people sitting at a bar. It's reminiscent of two people sitting in a car if you have the ability to backlight them. But I just want to talk about how other cinematographers do it, see how they achieve success when your character isn't against the wall. So we have to understand what we have to do to change when our character is against the wall. All right, so let's look at the first images. So this is just two characters sitting on a park bench, and the cinematographer chose the time of day with the assistant director to schedule it so that the sun is up here, and it is backlighting our characters. You can see the sun hitting them like this, right? And probably what they have here is like, and I don't know this for a fact, but probably what they have is like some sort of bounce, ultra bounce, bleached muzz, something or other that's bringing level back this way. And I'm guessing that it's ultra bounce or bleached muzz because it feels like it's pretty white, like it's lifted blue here versus the color of the sun. Okay. Let's keep moving because I really want to get through these quickly. Again, two gentlemen sitting at a park bench talking to each other. The thing that's difficult about the setup is that their bodies are facing forwards. This is the problem that we run into, but their heads look this way or this way when they're talking to the other character in the scene. So that's what we have to navigate as cinematographers. Okay, again, two characters at a park bench, totally backlit. Looks like the sun is back here, hitting them this way. You choose the time of day where they're backlit. You probably have some sort of bounce here. It's doing this, bringing level back up into their faces that way. Okay, let's move on. Another scene. Two characters on a bench talking to each other. The sun is back here, hitting her in the head, hitting her in the head. They are backlit. There's probably some sort of leveler that's happening right here. This looks like some sort of warm bounce coming back up into them. So maybe a gold lame, maybe just I think probably like a gold lame is bouncing back up because you can see how warm it is on their skin tones. Okay, two characters on a bench. When you're shooting at them, you're trying to backlight them. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Here we go. Once again, two characters on a bench talking to each other. This is French overs, so you're shooting from behind them, which is another way of covering these scenes. If you have depth behind your characters, you can shoot from behind and look forward. Look at what's even going on here. And guess what we're doing? We're backlighting them. Camera's here, looking at them. They're sitting here. The sun is back here, right? We're backlighting them. So even when our position is that we're shooting their backsides versus their front faces, we're always backlighting them when they're on a bench, which is a great luxury that you have when your two characters are facing the same direction, talking to each other, and they're on a bench, because you can have sun on either side of the bench, depending on where the bench is oriented and what time of day you're shooting. You do not have that luxury when you are shooting something where your characters are against the wall because you can only light them from one side of the room. You cannot light them from behind because there's a wall, right? Okay, so this is a common way of dealing with this coverage, which is in a bedroom, there's an argument that you have practical lights, practical sconces, something, end table lights or whatever that are motivating light to come in and to sort of key your character. You can wrap it around their face, but it's edging your character, right? In this particular scene, it looks like they also have a window which is oriented back this direction, but it's bringing in level this way because you can see that on him. You can see that fall off here as well. Okay, so that's a solution. When your characters are up against the wall, if it's a bedroom or if you can justify practical lights to be on either side of them, then you're kind of cooking with gas. Okay, once again, another bedroom scene. Look, just look at this. Incredible. Just practical lights. That's all that's playing in this. Look, she's got a beautiful key here. He's got an edge light over here. Look, she's actually stacking his light, right? So he's dark down here because as soon as she leans back, he's going to get illuminated on that side. So this is a solution. Okay. So now this is the first scene that I wanted to talk about how if your characters are with their backs against the wall, right? How are we lighting it? And this one's really interesting. So this is from Sex Education. The two characters are just sitting. It's broad daylight, right? But it's England, as we know. So it's kind of overcast. So there's just like ambient level that's coming everywhere here. Let's see what happens when we move in for coverage. Look, we're getting a little bit tighter. So this is our 2-shot of our characters. As you can look at Otis is this character. As you can look at his face, you can see the key light is actually coming from this direction. The reason I know that is because he's got a little shadow happening over here. Look at this side of his face, a little shadow. Same with this. Little shadow over here. This I think is really interesting because we're front lighting him, right? Because the key, we've already established where the key is on this side of frame. It's coming in that way because we saw it in the 2-shot, we saw it in the establishing shot. So we don't really want to break continuity, I don't think, right? So this is what's really interesting to me. So his key light is illuminated on this side. If we think about it, when we go to the other person's coverage, that means that the key light is coming this direction. The other character is going to be front lit. And the big question for me is, how do we navigate that? How do we create shape in the other character? So let's see how they did it in Sex Education. Oh, the answer is that they didn't shoot that coverage in Sex Education. They completely avoided it and cut out of the scene. So that shows you how difficult it is to navigate that. Okay, here's another example. So this is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. You can see right here, there's a practical light playing in the scene, which sort of justifies the motivation of this light being the key light. You can see that on this side of her face. You can see that this side of her face is darker, and you can see there's a shadow at her nose, right? So the key light is coming camera right and going across camera left. Okay, let's go in for the coverage. Let's see how it goes. This is the 2-shot, sorry. So the 2-shot is same thing. You can see, look, the shadow is right here, so you know the light is coming from this side, moving this direction. That's where the light fixture is at. Okay, great. We have established that. Now, this is sort of what I'm talking about in these scenes, right? When you establish the 2-shot, the light has to be coming from this direction. So when you go into coverage on this guy, he needs to be keyed on that side. That's the premise anyway. Let's see how it's done in implementation, right? Okay, so when we come in this particular example, they chose to key light him from this direction, that means this character over here is probably being flown out to create space for a fixture to be pushed as close against the wall as possible. Because look at this. You can see it in his eye. There's like some narrow, tall fixture right here that's bringing in level. This isn't like natural looking, I don't think, from this, right? Because wouldn't she be where the light is at? I mean, I think so. She would be standing where the light is at. Now, I just want to bring up that they also brought in, obviously there are these practical lights playing in these Christmas lights are playing in the wide as well. So they're playing here to create depth, the illusion of depth. But you can see that they also created a little edge light here, right? So something's coming in from the edge to create depth and texture on him. And in fact, it's actually like, you can see it's raking across this. Like this level is much hotter than this level, because he's shadowing where this light is at. They didn't even cut that light off the wall. They were like, nah, dude, whatever. They're not even worried about it. So they're moving quick on the day. Now let's go look at her coverage, right? So this actually makes a little bit more sense for me when you come from the wide because the light is here. So it's going to be hitting this side of her cheek. And look, here we are. This side, wrapping around her face. This side is dark because the wall is eating up the reflective light coming back around. Right? She is keyed on this side, which is near side keying, which I know last week or a couple of weeks ago we were saying never happens. But obviously I was speaking in hyperbole and YouTube talk to get people excited about the video. So that's the first way to do this scene, right? In fact, let me just draw it over here. Like when you have two characters next to each other, that's a character, this is a character. And you have a key light right here, right? And you're shooting this way. And you're shooting this way, but you know, it's like you're going to be softening it up with some sort of diffusion here. So it's going to hit here and it's going to spread out this way. That's your wide, basically. So when you come around for her coverage, it's going to be the same, right? So this light is still going to hit this. So that's hitting her here, right? So it's hitting her right here. It's wrapping around this side of her face. Great. Okay. Now the thing that's interesting to me about what they chose to do in this setup is that when they come in for his coverage, they move a light to right here, a smaller light, and illuminate him that way. And they give his eye line this direction while the camera is shooting him here. Okay, I know that this is in the weeds. I think this is the whole point of this channel is like, man, sometimes your characters are going to get put up against a wall. How do we figure out how to light it? And how do we make it consistent from the wide to the coverage? How do we make it feel naturalistic and that this is happening naturally in the scene? Let's move on. This is the one that I really wanted to talk about today. It was Jojo Rabbit. I really loved how they did this. I thought it was super interesting. Okay, so they are in a closet. They're in a crawl space, right? So you're inherently in trouble because the location is tiny. So creating depth is going to be difficult. So what did the DP do to create depth? They placed items in the foreground for the wide, because what you can't do is create the illusion of depth by having lights backlighting them or having practicals deep in the background, which creates the illusion of depth, because in this scenario they're up against the wall, they're in a very tight space, so you can't go behind them. So what do you do to create the illusion of depth? You put something in the foreground. Okay, so this is the two shot establishing the quality of light that is on our two characters as they have a conversation looking at each other. And I think this is really important to point out. I want to point out how this light is shaped on Scarlett Johansson's face. The key light is coming this direction. This right here, that lamp is the key light. Remember the shape on her face and what that looks like in the two shot, okay? Now, we're moving on to a more intimate shot here. This character, because the key light being over here and hitting them this direction, this character is front lit, front side keyed. Normally we would want the key to be on this side, far side keying her and putting the triangle on this side. But friends, you can't do that because there's a wall in the way. So what did we do? We softened it up. You can also see, if you look in her eye, they created some sort of like horizontal light mat or small fixture or something to just wrap this key light further around her face so that she has this sort of shape to the light, right? Because if they didn't have that and it was still just the practical lamp, you know, that's my lamp. It's a bad looking lamp, I know. But you'd probably just be illuminated here. And when she turns this direction to look at our character, which she will be because people talk to each other, they look each other in the eye and stuff like that, she would be pretty dark on this side. So we want to wrap more light around her face for it to just be more flattering. Okay, great. That is her coverage. Right? Let's move on here. Okay, so now we're in Scarjo's coverage. Look at this. You can now see, look at how much brighter this is than her being front lit. Okay, so there's now a fixture here. So continuity is completely broken here. They completely broke continuity to do what is best for this shot, which is they put a light here to have this side of her face be as bright as possible so that the darkness can come this way, which matches the coverage of her, Mackenzie, or Thomason Mackenzie. It's brighter on this side and darker towards the wall. Brighter on the outside, darker towards the wall. When you go to the two shot, again, look, she's brighter on this side. go to a coverage, she is brighter on this side. So the cinematographer is consciously breaking continuity to be able to create the illusion of more depth in the face of our characters, because you can't put something beyond the wall, right? You can't light her that way. So I think that's really interesting. I think this is a really great solve for this situation. Let me know what you think. Is continuity important? Obviously in Jojo Rabbit, they didn't care about it. And in aspects of Scott Pilgrim, they didn't care about it either. So it feels like it's not that important, but let me know in the comments below if you think that it is. I hope that this is helpful. I actually really learned a lot from the exercise of doing this. I learned a lot from doing it on the day about what not to do. And so when I was looking at other people's work, it sort of makes me understand a little bit more about what's the move here. Let me know if there's anything else that you guys want to learn. I'm constantly, the things that I'm finding and navigating while I'm on set or prepping to do a film on set are the things that I'm bringing to this channel. And I hope that that's helpful to you guys. Okay, I think that's all the time that we have for today. Thanks so much. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Hope to speak soon. Cheers.